Is there currently anyone in boxing who has achieved more than Terence Crawford? Bud became the undisputed champion in his native weight division, and now he is on the verge of achieving the same result in the second division.
It's pretty clear through those first 5 rounds. Crawford studied up and now knows every single thing he has to do, and he did it. That is a sensational 6th round knockout.
The final barrier separating Terence from being recognized as one of the greatest boxers of all time is the undefeated Errol Spence Jr, who has dismantled over 30 opponents on his path to championship glory. If there is a hero in the welterweight division capable of challenging Crawford, it is him.
Busto is very game right now, but he's hurt. Oh, and he goes out! He is out! Wow!
There is nothing more intriguing than the clash of two unparalleled talents. For our generation, the Spence vs Crawford showdown will be akin to Ali vs Frazier, the fight of the century, no less. Each boxer, in the event of their triumph, will forever be enshrined in the pantheon of heroes and serve as an example to future generations. But what events led us to this bout? It's time to reminisce. Take a seat, get comfortable, my friends. Ahead of you lies the countdown to the showdown between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also give it a thumbs up and leave a comment in 4 words. Now let's get started. Here we go. In accordance with the unforgettable tradition, let's begin the countdown with a brief biography of the fighters. On September the 28th, Terence Crawford will celebrate his 36th birthday, and through simple math we can deduce that the future champion was born in the distant year of 1987. Bud grew up in a family with deep boxing traditions. His father, uncle, and even grandfather had experience competing in the amateur ring, introducing the young boy to boxing at the age of 7. By the way, until the age of 12, Crawford was also involved in wrestling, but later made a definitive choice in favor of the gloves. In contrast to Terence, the 33-year-old Errol spent his childhood on the football field, scraping his knees rather than his opponents' noses. It wasn't until he was 14 years old that Spence found his true calling and transitioned to boxing training. Both fighters competed in the amateur ranks, but with different levels of success. Crawford was a decent middleweight who couldn't win the Golden Gloves and also failed to qualify for the Olympics, while the talented Spence twice claimed gold at prestigious tournaments and managed to make it to the Olympic team but lost in the quarterfinals. The champions then transitioned to the professional ranks, but at different times. Crawford in 2008 and Spence 4 years later. By the way, in the same year, 2008, Bud narrowly escaped death when he was shot, but fortunately suffered minimal injuries. The criminal incidents in Terence's life didn't end there, as in 2016 he faced a possible 3-month sentence for a misdemeanor charge, but managed to avoid punishment. If we overlook these minor criminal details, we can see that both boxers showcased their incredible skills in the professional ring. In 2017, Crawford became the first boxer in history in the light welterweight division to become the undisputed champion. By that time, Spence had only captured his first title, but the destiny of divisions and the time since the start of their careers played a significant role. After winning the IBF title, the True started defending it, while Bud, having achieved everything in his native weight class, moved up to Spence's division, immediately securing a title shot and emerging victorious. Once dominant figures like Crawford emerged in the welterweight division, the prospect of his fight with Spence began to captivate people's minds, but that was still a long way off. The first discussions started in the spring of 2019 when Spence was set to face Mikey Garcia, an incredible champion in 4 different weight classes who remained undefeated, and this was despite having already fought 39 professional bouts.
Because Thurman been injured and stuff like that. It's kind of like me and Crawford. I mean, it'll happen, but I mean, it's not going to happen when people, you know, I don't think it's going to happen this year when people want it.
By the way, Terence had already crossed gloves with Garcia and emerged victorious, but only in the amateurs. Now it was Spence's turn to try and stop the Mexican juggernaut in a clash for the vacant WBC Diamond Belt which proved to be one of the most challenging tests in the young talent's career. It's amazing, but the experienced and truly skillful Mikey couldn't offer anything to his counterpart. In the first 2 rounds, the fighters engaged in a prolonged reconnaissance, but once Spence gathered all the necessary information, he dismantled his experienced opponent with his speed and power. The slight advantage of the truth eventually turned into an overwhelming burden, and Garcia, the seasoned fighter, was simply broken, losing the match with a lopsided score of 120 to 108.
Just the motivation, fighting in front of my hometown crowd. You know, this is where I started at. You know, from a pup, from the amateurs all the way up. This is my core fan base, just the people that supported me since day one. You know, and I felt good. I want to put on a great performance. You know,
the truth started to be talked about as the best welterweight of his time, but Crawford planned to steal that title in his upcoming fight. Terence was set to face the past his prime Amir Khan, who had been away from boxing for 2 years, but recently returned with 2 victories and had no intention of backing down. The showdown between the peak Khan and Crawford could have been a mega interesting event, but by 2018, the match already seemed like a mismatch. In the first round, Terence, driven by his killer instinct, met Khan with a lateral move and delivered a perfect punch that sent the veteran to the canvas. Thanks to some divine intervention, the Brit managed to survive, but the course of the fight didn't change much for the better. Bud continued to land his best shots, while Khan resorted to wild swings. Fans had long known about Khan's issues with his chin, so the question was only how many more of Crawford's punches he could withstand. In each round, the champion's shot came closer and closer, but the outcome was too sudden.
Did you see the transition right there where he stepped back?
Khan took a devastating blow to the groin and couldn't continue. Terence won by TKO, but it was certainly not the kind of victory he wanted. Meanwhile, Spence already knew the name of his next opponent. Promoters managed to arrange a fight against the WBC champion, Shawn Porter, who had won his belt in a clash with Danny Garcia. Shawn was a very talented fighter who often found himself overshadowed by more media-friendly colleagues. At that time, he had a record of 30 wins and 2 losses, both of which occurred in close, even controversial fights. If Spence secured an easy victory over such a powerful and experienced opponent, his stock could skyrocket. But how did it actually turn out? To secure a confident victory, the truth needed to work at long range, but Porter was well aware of that, and from the start, he began to rush at the champion, clinching and exchanging blows. The compact but sturdy Porter neutralized his opponent's power and height advantage, pressing him against the ropes and making his life as uncomfortable as possible. However, Spence, like a cornered lion, fought back until the end and caught Porter in the 11th round.
1 minute remaining and Spence said that's what he wanted to do.
A precise hook from the side disrupted Porter's momentum and became the decisive moment of the entire showdown. Thanks to that knockdown, Errol emerged as the winner on the scorecards of 2 judges and claimed his 2nd title.
It don't matter. Last time Crawford fought on pay-per-view, he did 100,000 buys. I'm not worried about Crawford right now. They don't really promote him like they should be, so it is what it is. We'll worry about Crawford when we get there, but like I said, Crawford needs me more than I need him.
Those were confident words after a not-so-easy, yet still victorious fight. Overall, Spence had only a few more opponents to face for his continued growth, and Crawford was certainly among the mandatory opponents. However, soon the champion's focus shifted away from boxing. On October 10, 2019, Errol was involved in one of the most horrific accidents I've seen in my life. His car flew like a bullet on the road, flipping multiple times. At the time, Spence was drunk and not wearing a seatbelt. Visually, it seemed impossible to survive such an accident, but thanks to a true miracle, Errol emerged intact with only minor injuries. By December, he was giving interviews about the incident.
I really was just sore. Like, my whole body was just sore. You know, it was just I guess a miracle from God. And, you know, he really protected me during the accident because, I mean, anybody else would probably been killed, so, you know.
While Spence was recovering from the shocking accident, Crawford was preparing for his third defense of the WBO title. The Lithuanian prospect with a strong amateur career and an undefeated professional record of 20-0, Ugas Kavaliauskas decided to challenge Bud for the title. For the guy with a challenging last name, this fight was the opportunity of a lifetime, but for Terence, it was just another routine defense. Shortly before the fight, the unknown prospect was asked in an interview about his thoughts on Spence's comments, as Spence hadn't even considered sharing the ring with him yet.
Are you frustrated when you hear Errol Spence after a fight say, I'm not worried about Terence Crawford, I'm gonna fight this guy, and this guy, and then maybe him in a couple years?
Nah, really.
Come on, bud.
I wouldn't say I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated about the whole circle around it. Like, they can't say my name. That's when I get frustrated.
Yeah.
Watch how he does it here. One punch, that's it. Bud Crawford, title defense.
The relatively unknown prospect almost pulled off an upset when he caught Terence with a straight punch in the early rounds, but he stumbled and didn't receive a knockdown. Sensing the power in Kavaliauskas' hands, Crawford became serious and started throwing high amplitude and dangerous punches from his southpaw stance, one of which dropped the Lithuanian in the 7th round.
Back and lands a combination zone, and Crawford!
The challenger managed to rise from the canvas, but a couple of moments later, Bud sent him to the grave with a powerful right hook. This time the knockdown was final.
Well, listen, I've been saying I'll fight anybody. I've been saying that for I don't know how long, so I don't really got to call out anybody. You know, I fought my mandatory. That's because I had to. I'm not ducking anybody.
As you can see, neither of the boxers were openly challenging each other, but the spirit of that grand showdown was still in the air, or at least it seemed that way. However, everything changed very soon, and the guys were deprived of the opportunity to have any fights. The pandemic took over the world, and boxing tournaments became a thing of the past. Both champions, like almost all athletes, disappeared from the radar for 6 months, and talks of their return only began in late summer 2020.
Like I always tell people when they mention me and Errol Spence, you know, of course I want to fight. I tell everybody that. I always say, with or without him, I'm going to the Hall of Fame. Honestly, I think, you know, I'm the A side. He think he's the A side, and you know, if we both feel that we the A side, you know, we got to come to an agreement.
After the forced hiatus, Crawford finally got a fight against the renowned welterweight Kell Brook. From 2014 to 2017, the Brit held the IBF title and at one point even moved up 2 weight divisions to face Gennady Golovkin, but was knocked out. After that, Brook returned to his division, where he was thoroughly handled by Spence. Since then, the Brit had won 3 fights and was now ready to test his skills against Bud.
Game 27 knockouts in his career. Do we have 28 right here?
This fight is also
Thundering in. Look at Crawford. Vicious attack to close it.
Brook performed very well in the first 3 rounds. He occasionally connected with long punches to Crawford's head and targeted the body. Crawford didn't feel comfortable, but everything changed abruptly when he switched from orthodox to southpaw stance. Brook stopped landing shots, and Crawford dismantled him with his powerful right hook. Several of the champion's favorite punches landed accurately and proved to be fatal. With another right hook from the side, Crawford targeted and knocked out his opponent. Just 3 months after Terence defeated veteran Brook, Errol Spence was set to face former 3-time champion in different versions, Danny Garcia, in a not-so-easy fight. In their youth, Swift had faced Bud twice at the amateur level, and their record there was 1-1. In his prime, Garcia won championship belts in the welterweight division, but suffered 2 losses after moving up in weight to Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. Now it was time to face the top welterweight, Errol Spence. One of the most important questions was how well the Truth had recovered from the horrific accident. Would Spence still be the same? No, he was the same good old champion. While Garcia loaded up on his right-hand shots, Spence snapped his jab and then unleashed a variety of punches with both hands. Garcia's straight punches found their mark a few times, but the champion didn't show any signs of being hurt and dominated almost the entire allotted time. It was a confident victory over an elite opponent.
I'm here for a reason, and I basically proved that, I'm back and I'm here to stay, and I'm the unified champion of the world.
It seemed like now was the perfect time to organize a fight between Crawford and Spence. Both were at the top of their game and ready to compete for the title of the best welterweight. What more could you ask for? On the surface, it all seemed simple, but in reality, there were many obstacles standing in the way of this fight, with the main one being the inability of Bob Arum and Al Heyman, who represented the fighters, to reach an agreement. Al didn't want to pit Spence against Crawford for various reasons, including the poor sales of Bud's fights. Despite Terence Crawford's impressive credentials and titles, he hadn't become a superstar during his long 10-year tenure with Top Rank. Boxers with his accolades and championships should be attracting millions of viewers for each fight, while Crawford's numbers consistently remained below 400,000. Bob Arum tried everything in his power to make this fight happen, but was met with resistance at every turn. The showdown with Spence was one of the last options that never materialized. The most notable opponent the promoters managed to find for Crawford was Shawn Porter, who recently fought against the true champion and came close to defeating him. This matchup could have had two outcomes: a successful event that would continue Crawford's collaboration with Arum, or Crawford leaving Top Rank.
Looks good on his feet, but not coming forward and firing at Crawford for the moment. There's the overhand right, and another combination! Beautiful work by Crawford! Magnificent accuracy by the champ!
Crawford tried to be the aggressor and apply pressure, but Porter consistently countered and refused to give up space. It was a revelation for Crawford to discover that this man not only had answers, but also possessed greater punching power. For a while, the champion lost focus, but gradually managed to regroup. As the fight progressed, Crawford's blows started landing more frequently, while Porter began to retreat and showed less enthusiasm to engage. Bud started the 10th round with a spectacular knockout, and by the end of the round, a beaten and battered Porter was lying on the canvas. It was an extremely convincing victory.
Well, you already know who I want. I've been calling him out all day, you know what I mean? Maybe I'll go up to 154. Maybe if Spence get his tail out his butt, he'll fight me. You know what I mean? Whatever, you know what I mean? I will whatever.
Man, like I said before, man, I don't need Spence. You know, I've been the #1 guy in the division since I came here. You know, 3-time, you know, 3-weight world champion, you know what I mean? Like, undisputed world champion. You know, coming in the welterweight division, my first fight, and win a title. Like, the things that I've been doing in my whole career is nothing compared to Spence.
However, what Crawford desired didn't come to fruition. Soon after, the media reported that the champion had fallen out with Bob Arum and was leaving Top Rank, filing a lawsuit in the process. After so many years of collaboration, Bob and Terence, who were once like family, turned into bitter adversaries, and Crawford had other priorities than future fights. But what happened to the truth? That question had been lingering in your mind, but don't worry, we'll finally get back to it now. It all started after Spence's victory over Garcia, when an interesting opportunity presented itself: a fight with the legend Manny Pacquiao. The legend wanted to retire in his own way, with 2 titles to his name. It's worth mentioning that at the age of 40, Pac-Man still looked impressive and had recently defeated the powerful Keith Thurman, whom Spence had once desired to fight. The Spence-Pacquiao showdown appealed to everyone, except, it seemed, the champion himself. The Truth admitted that he didn't want to play the role of Larry Holmes, sending a veteran into retirement. However, the promoter wanted it. The fight was inevitable, preparation was in full swing, and the boxers even held a press conference.
I decided to pick Errol Spence because I want to give a good fight to the fans, and I want a real fight. I mean, I'm a fighter and boxing is my passion.
It's a great opportunity, especially, coming from my accident and fight Danny Garcia, and then I get to fight with Manny Pacquiao, which a lot of guys is in the sweepstakes. And
unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, due to the potential mismatch, the fight never took place. Spence suffered a retinal injury and couldn't continue his training. Instead, Yordenis Ugas stepped in to fight Pacquiao and easily sent the veteran into well-deserved retirement. Ugas had been a contender for a long time, held the WBA title, and had only lost to Sean Porter by a split decision recently. So once the champion resolved his injury issues, it was decided to have his fight with Ugas to unify the 3 belts and bring the winner closer to the title of undisputed champion. Naturally, Spence was the one they wanted to see as the holder of 3 titles. Well, we expected a bit more from the truth. Overall, Spence did well. He did what he usually does, outworking his opponent and landing slightly more punches, but he gave away a few rounds and got rocked by a right-hand punch in the 6th round. Ugas undoubtedly good and skilled, but not at an elite level and also aging. If Yordenis were younger, he would probably have given Spence a tremendously tough fight, but as it was, he managed to trouble him a bit, but due to taking 100 jabs, he developed a serious hematoma that prevented him from continuing the match. Spence was declared the winner by TKO.
you know, you're gonna go through trials and tribulations. You know, I went through a lot of trials. You know, I got tested, and you know, I passed the test due to, you know, just my upbringing. My mother, my father always, you know, telling me not to quit, not to give up. Everybody know who I want next. I want Terence Crawford next.
The champion with 3 titles has spoken. He wants to fight Crawford, and now that Terence is no longer associated with Bob Arum, it seemed that this matchup is becoming increasingly possible. By that time, Crawford had been a free agent for almost half a year, but no promotional company rushed to sign one of the best boxers of the 21st century. The main issue was, of course, money. Crawford wanted substantial purses that he clearly lacked under Top Rank, but his demands didn't align with his pay-per-view sales, making it difficult to secure a lucrative deal. While searching for a new home, the champion gave various interviews, including discussions about a potential fight with Spence.
You know, man, I just can't wait till the contract gets signed.
Yeah.
And, you know, I get to go to training camp and, you know, just picture myself walking down that aisle to put on a great show because, you know, I know me, you know, and I've been waiting for this moment all my life, you know, and to show everybody that doubt me who Terence Crawford is.
Yeah.
When you look at Terence Crawford legacy compared to Errol Spence legacy, it's night and day. And I don't mean to throw shade on the brother. I'm just speaking facts. Brother, they can say whatever they want. They can hate and say, oh, well, he fought this guy, he fought that guy. They can say whatever they want. But for Terence Crawford legacy, you're going to say he's a 3-weight world champion. He's an undisputed world champion. He's a fighter of the year.
Despite Crawford's impressive legacy, no one seemed eager to work with him. It appeared that Bud had become a hostage of his own self-assurance. However, he eventually found a promotional company that met his requirements and scheduled a fight against former WA champion David Avanesian, who had won his last 6 fights. Although the opposition wasn't top tier, it was at least a bout after more than a year of inactivity. Despite Avanesian's efforts, he simply wasn't on the champion's level. Crawford calmly worked as the second fiddle and used his jab to toy with his opponent's head, deflecting it in different directions like playing tennis. At times, Crawford let his guard down and could miss something, but the punches landed were insignificant and didn't tip the scales in the other direction. In the 4th round, Crawford caught Avanesian cleanly, but couldn't finish him immediately. It took him 2 more rounds, and in the 6th, the champion's left hand finished what he had started.
Crawford's taking it off the gears.
One of the first questions asked to the winner at the press conference was, "What do you think?"
Is there a message you want to give to Spence?
I don't got to give no message to nobody. Everybody see what I've done in the welterweight division. Everybody see who I've been calling out. Everybody know what Terence Crawford.
Finally, all parties wanted the same thing, and there are no problems, right? Well, that's not true. Soon after Crawford's 39th victory, the headline appeared: Errol Spence involved in a car accident. Fortunately, this time it wasn't the champion's fault and he didn't get injured, so he didn't require a long rehabilitation. It had been about 3 months since Crawford's performance and there is no news or updates about the fight. Did we get deceived again? No! Here it is! An exciting announcement arrives that Crawford and Spence will fight on June the 18th. Some not so attentive folks already started rubbing their hands together, but the smart ones immediately looked at the calendar and sighed in disappointment. Just a few hours later, Crawford himself denied the rumors and called them an April Fool's joke. Another lull set in the negotiation process. There were rumors in the media about the possibility of Spence moving up in weight to face Canelo, while Crawford allegedly could soon face one of the Charlo brothers. All these news bits were a bit annoying until a long-awaited and desired message arrived in May. Terence Crawford and Errol Spence will have a fight on July the 29th. Damn! Hell yeah! It took them 5 freaking years to reach this showdown, but they finally did it. The funniest part is that the main role in discussing all the matters was played by the guys themselves, who spent hours on the phone.
When was that fight gonna last? You and Earl?
I don't know. I ain't no psychic.
I don't think it go the distance though. I don't think it go the distance.
Whether it do or not, I'm gonna be undisputed. I'm gonna be undisputed. I'm sitting here telling you right now.
What's up, everybody? The wait is over. It's game time. Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, July 29th, Las Vegas, Nevada. Everybody come out, show support, and watch me fry this fish.
Meanwhile, during one of the joint video conferences, Spence showed the seriousness of his mindset.
I'm a man of my word, like I said. People thought I was gonna move up, but just like I told him when we encountered each other in Oklahoma, I said I'm gonna get these belts on my side, and I'm gonna come take yours. And this is where we at now, and I stood on that. Even if it was leaving me standing out the ring a whole year and trying to give me to fight other people. It's the fight I wanted, so I stuck to my guns and was like, I'm not fighting until I fight Terence Crawford, so my team got it going.
Predictions from all authoritative and not so authoritative people immediately poured in, and the guys slowly but surely moved towards holding one of the first joint press conferences, where the main points were voiced from both sides. Crawford, as usual, talked about his greatness and engaged in a bit of amusing trash talk.
So y'all can witness greatness. You had the Sugar Ray Robinson era, you had the Ali era, the Marvin Haglers, the Tommy Hearns, you even had the Floyd Mayweather, his era. But July 29th, I'm gonna show each and every one of y'all why this era is the Terence Crawford era. Come fight night, he called himself the big fish, right? But what you do when the fish get took out the water, you suffocate them. Let's go.
Spence also touched on his theme of legacy and recalled some great past matchups.
It's definitely an old school fight. It's the fights that my dad used to talk to me about and older people tell me about. Where you had Sugar Ray Leonard versus Tommy Hearns, you had Durant and all them, you had De La Hoya and Trinidad fighting. You had the best fighting the best. And finally, we're at this point where, me and Terence Crawford had to get on the phone, talk about it, and now, it's finally happening. I want everybody to tune in July 29th, come to the fight, because we're going to have a crawfish boil.
Male boxer to actually capture the welterweight champion in 2 divisions, and that would solidify me as the greatest fighter of this era.
Definitely not, man. I'm not gonna lie, Tyron got the best matchmakers in the business. You ain't fought nobody, man. You haven't beat anybody undisputed at 140. Who you fought at 135 and who you fought at 147. you fought Sean Porter. Even Sean Porter said.
What did I do to Sean Porter that you couldn't
Sean
do?
Porter said he did not train like he should. He didn't do the things that his daddy told him to do. What are you talking about? Even his daddy said it. Even his daddy said it.
You butthurt that I got this.
Even his daddy said it.
There was noticeable tension between the fighters, and it made itself known at the next press conference as well.
All the titles I took from the champion. So what you saying?
Okay.
Every title I took, Sean Porter,
he was
champion.
He was a one-time, one-weight champion.
It don't matter. I'm taking it. I'm taking it.
Well, you got the opportunity.
Like I said, you line them up, I'm gonna knock them down every time. It don't matter what happens, personal life, whatever. Hey man, give me him. You sure you want him? Yeah, this is easy work.
Well, you know, I like to go fishing. Everybody know that those are my
man, that's cat. He's not catching me with no fishing pole.
Hey, listen.
I'm a big one. He's catching me with no fishing pole.
And all of this is happening now, with still a month to go until their fight. I can only imagine the heated exchanges that will take place at the final press conference, but it will only make watching them more interesting, which I advise you do so as well. So what about this showdown in the end? Is it really as significant for the sport as everyone says? Absolutely! The second and first ranked fighters in the pound-for-pound ratings will face each other in a face-to-face confrontation, and in terms of status, it will be even more thrilling than Usyk versus Fury. Both boxers have gone through real struggles leading us to this fight. They have faced tough opponents and unforeseen life situations, but now it seems that all the worries are far behind them. All that's left for us is to grab some popcorn and eagerly await the day of July 29th, when not only the fate of the two welterweights will be decided, but also the fate of boxing as a whole.